Okay. Dear guests, welcome to the afternoon program of our conference. We will have the third session, but before we have a very interesting keynote speech from Professor Hisham Mortada from the King Abdulaziz University in Saudi Arabia. And his topic, the topic of his lecture is Sustainability of Adobe Traditional Architecture of Najd, Saudi Arabia. After his lecture, we will have 6 presentations. And then after the presentations, we will have a short discussion round where the presenters will be able to answer to your questions. But first of all, Professor Hisham Mortada, welcome to the conference, and we are looking forward to your presentation. The floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to, express my gratefulness to Fatih Sultan Muhammad University and the faculty members of KERPIC for organizing and preparing for this important conference. I'm very pleased to be with you, and to be with many of you that I know and are friends to me. I will be talking about the sustainability of traditional Adobe architecture of Najd region in Saudi Arabia. Most scholars define sustainability as using energy and land resources with maximum efficiency at a rate that does not compromise the needs and life of future generations. The principles of sustainability are energy efficiency, material choice and use, site impact, and longevity and flexibility. And sustainability is, everybody agrees that sustainability is based on traditional architecture. Traditional architecture is a vital source of reference for sustainability. Adobe is one of the materials that have been used since the beginning of humanity. Both, in all religions, a man has been created from mud. So it has been a material that has been used since prehistory or ancient times, in ancient Egypt, in ancient Mesopotamia, and South America, and so on. It's available, it's cheap, it's easy to use, and it's fun to work with. And in modern history, famous architects such as Frank Lloyd Wright and Philip Johnson have used also Adobe in many of their master pieces of architecture. And in the American Southwest, in states like Arizona or Nevada or Texas, local governments highly encourages to use Adobe in the construction of dwellings. In fact, in Tucson, Arizona, if you build your house from Adobe, you get like 50% discount in your electricity bill. Saudi Arabia, being a desert country or desert geography, knows nothing about materials except Adobe. Adobe is the most widely used in buildings throughout times. In fact, 75% of the Saudi heritage is from mud or mud architecture. It comes in different forms, depends on the region. Some are high-rise buildings and some other lower buildings. some are located in pure deserts, some are in mountains, and some are highly decorated, and others, just simply Adobe buildings. Saudi Arabia consists of 4 regions that has different environments that has influence on the formation of architecture and also in the material used. We have the Red Sea coast, which is called Hijaz, which is coastal area, and it has its own architecture. There is no mud used in this area because mud is not available, or strong or good quality of sand is not available on the coastal region of the Red Sea of Hijaz. Then we have Asir in the mountains. Then in the center we have Najd. Then we have in the Gulf the Eastern province. This is the central region of Saudi Arabia, which is called Najd. Major cities there are Riyadh, Daraya, and Hail. It's just plain or vast areas of sand dunes that are everywhere. That's the nature of the region. Nothing but sand, However, there are some pockets, some desert oases that bring life into that desert. And, in some cases, on some parts of Najd, or the desert of Najd, there are some little mountains, such as Tuwaiq, which is 708 to 1,170 meters above the sea level, passes through Najd, but does not have any noticeable impact on its climate, which is extremely dry, hot in summer, and cold in winter. Temperature-wise, temperature in summer is extremely high. Sometimes with the climate change, it reaches to 50 degrees in June. And in winter, especially in January, it goes below 0. Rainfall is very limited. It, sometimes the year passes without any rain. And sometimes, it just, rains for a few minutes, but it is like floods, in large quantities and fast speed. The urban characteristics of Najd built environment, where mud is used, features a compact organic urban form. Buildings are attached to each other. And that's obvious, because there is a need to provide coolness, shaded spaces, and also to bring people together. And that's one of the major features of the urban environment of Najd settlements. We have here a little town called Al-Ghat. We see, buildings. We see buildings are attached to each other with some narrow zigzagged alleys that penetrate the neighborhoods. That in some cases that integrated compact form integrates with the palm trees that they form the oasis, and also this has some impact on improving or humanizing the climate of the settlement. This is the case of Daraya. Again, we see the palm trees are in a way or another, form fingers through the urban form of Daraya. These palm trees are the source of farms, are the source of life for the people, or for the inhabitants. The source of food, the source of construction materials, source of clothes even. Buildings are attached, and there is no large surfaces of outside exposed to direct sunlight or heat. And sometimes there are some, there is necessary to increase or enhance or emphasize the coolness and the shading. And this is achieved by this kind of sabbat that are scattered throughout the settlements of Najd. Narrow zigzag roads and alleys bring shading, coolness to the space and make it easier to people to maneuver from one point to another inside the settlement. This is Daraya in the past. Now Daraya has changed a little bit, but still holding its urban heritage. And narrow zigzag roads and alleys as a feature of the urban compactness of Najdi settlements. As far as architecture, one of the most important features is the inwardness. The houses or the dwellings of Najd are inward looking because not because there is also need to provide a piece of the sky and to see God all the time, but also this space, provide the private space that people need to have in their daily life. And as you may know, people there, their social values are based on Islamic teachings. So there is a necessity to have a private life and segregation between public lives and private lives. And this courtyard has provided this segregation or separation. So there is a central courtyard to which all the rooms inside the house are open to. The central courtyard has also spatial or social advantages. It's the place where the family gathers with their relatives and neighbors. It is the place where the ladies of the family cook and do their dailies or night. And sometimes it's used for sleeping during hot summer nights. Sometimes the courtyards are surrounded by arcades, and this also add more coolness to the spaces behind the arcades, or ruwak or iwan. As we see here, the arcade, the spaces behind, both in the ground floor and in the upper floor. So this is very vital for any desert built environment. It's not only in Saudi Arabia. You find it. It's the reaction of the local community towards the harsh desert environment. It's not something that people learn from each other. It just happened. People reacted to the tough environment of the desert this way. This is their architecture. You can find the same reaction in other desert areas, South America or in Central Asia or in Africa and so on, or in Sahara even. So this central courtyard is like the heart of the house. It brings God to the house. It brings the coolness of the house to the house, and also ventilate, or encourage the aerodynamic pattern in the house. In addition to the courtyard, there are some zoning. There is a zoning pattern inside Najdi houses. There is a male zone and there is a female zone, which is a family or private zone. The male zone usually close to the main entrance with spaces that are used strictly by male visitors. And the more you go inside, the more private spaces appears. The family house or the family courtyard with other spaces around it. And sometimes there are two entrances to the house, one for the guest, which is usually larger, and the other for the family of the house, the private one, which is smaller. So the larger one, the guest ones, is made this size in order to be distinguished and differentiated from the family or the private entrance. Also, the Najd architecture features windowless facade. You see plain of mud, nothing except sometimes occasional openings, which are very small and has no architecture or artistic meaning. To certain functions, mostly for ventilation. Again, windowless facade. They are very simple. They are just sometimes boring. But this is what the harsh desert sometimes requires. You cannot have openings and expose your house to dust, heat, or rays. Well, regardless of all of this, there are some touches of art represented in the endings or the parapets of the buildings or small openings toward the end. But also, again, these have functional uses. They are for ventilation or for changing the direction of the raindrops in order to protect the mud walls outside. Interior spaces, the majlis or the space that's used by male guests are highly decorated with gypsum, and sometimes it called a kahwa, which means coffee, but it's not coffee room, but it's just a salon or reception room. It's the most important space. It is double height and highly decorated. The double height, this room is like 7 meters high, and in the area in the lower 2 meters, the temperature is very cool because the heat or the hot air goes through this opening in the top, and this maintains the coolness of the space in the lower level. As I said, it's highly decorated with gypsum that has different patterns taken or symbolize what the people or the community sees from the desert. There are some elements in that salon or in that guest room that used for coffee making, to host, to celebrate the guests. Roof is an important space in Najdi buildings. It is the space that is used in the evening to sleep or during night or socialize. And it is divided with partitions for, there is space for males and another space for females and so on. And sometimes the parapet is very high in order to maintain its privacy. Notable architectural elements, we see these openings, which are called al-forja, and this arcade in the upper floor is called sharafa, and this is jassa, where they keep the date for a long time. And I was there once, like last year, and I heard that they found one of the jassas with fresh date that's dated back to like 300 years ago, and still in good conditions. Also, there is mirza for the rainwater gutter, and also this turma for watching outside, and see who's coming or knocking the door or whatever. Construction materials and techniques. The Najdi buildings features simple structure, simply mud walls, stone foundations, and columns, palm tree leaves, and trunks for beams and roofing. Stone is the foundation. The stone is brought from surrounding hills or probably in the side in some areas where the quality of sand is not that much good and mixed with gravels and stones. And this is in the area. We see the stone foundation. The lower part of the lower 2 meters are from stones, and then they work as foundation for the upper mud part of the wall. Then we have the mud wall, which is a mixture of sand, water, and hay, exactly like the mixture that our colleague and friend Mirdat Hijazi, and I say hello to him, that he presented this morning. Mud walls, comes in 2 types of techniques. The first is mud bricks making. The molds is used to form the bricks and leave under the sun for like 5 days or 3 days to dry out. And then it's used on the construction of the walls this way. And there is also the courses, method, which is, you just take the mud after being mixed and fermented, and becomes, ready to use. So you form it in the form of balls and put them on the top of each other to form courses this way. So the muallim or the master builder built like 1 meter a day, then leave it to dry out, then come back after 2 days or 1 day and built another 5 courses and so on. This is the course method. As I said, just, this picture shows us the form of the mud, balls that are used in this construction technique. This section shows, the difference between brick construction, the bricks, and the course construction, the balls. It's almost the same, except the shape and the methodology of forming the mud and drying it out, and also constructing the walls. Again, mud, this wood frame, it's called Melbourne, 40 by 20 by 6 to 10 centimeter. And, after being formed and dried, it's stored for a while, then is used. Most of the time, the mud walls, the external wall, are left without plastering. However, there are so many cases that I examined, I saw, where the mud bricks have been plastered with a layer of fine mud mixture, as we see here. This is fine mud plaster, and sometimes also this includes the stone layers in the lower level, which is close to the ground. The mixture of the finishing and plastering is just fine mud with sometimes with straw or haze to add more strength to it. And in some occasions, stone is added to the mixture in order to add some strength. This kind of addition or stone use is very important, because in some areas the sand is very weak, the soil is very weak, especially in Daraya, the soil is very salty, so they had to add stones to the mixture. Mud plaster on either mud bricks or courses, and sometimes only half of the wall is plastered by gypsum and the rest by mud. Walls, columns are made out of stones, like balls, cylinder of stones that are placed in the top of each other to form columns. These are the columns. It's called kharaza. is like, just because they are cylindrical stones columns, and they are brought from the side surrounding hills of mountains. They are mostly from limestone, and they are used for roofing and for columns inside the spaces or in the arcades, and they form different columns, different arches, and with different capitals. As far as roofing, athil, which is a local tree, and palm trees are used, or the main source for the materials of roofing. The trunks are used, the trunks from these trees are used for like beams, and the leaves are used for, after being shaped in mats, they are used for the covering or placed on the top of the beams. Then a layer of mud, comes on the top of the mat. So as we see here, the column, the beam, then another beams, then the mats from palm trees. They are shaped this way, They collect the leaves of the palm tree, then they stitch it to next to each other to form the mats needed for the roofing. Different forms. It's all the same. Sometimes it's painting. The columns are painted with different colors. And also the same materials is used for the doors. And we see here doors that are made out of out of palm tree trunks for door panels and frames. They are simple doors. You cannot engrave on them or decorate them because the wood of or the palm tree trunks are very weak, and sometimes you cannot engrave in them or create some art on it. But in athel trees, the trunks are strong, and you can paint on them and modify or have some engraving or inscription on them with some colorings and so on to add more beauty to the doors. Flooring, soft mud mixture is used, as we see here. Very simple, very organic. As far as the sustainability of Adobe, it's this sustainability exists everywhere. It's not only in Najd, mud or sand is available on the site. It's local and easy to use. It's not important. You don't have to pay money to bring it. People just get it from the site, and it's easy to use and does not require a sophisticated skill. Spaces of Adobe houses, in Najd, are multifunctional. There is no waste of space. There is no spaces assigned for certain uses except the male guest rooms. It's the only place that is assigned for certain use. But the other spaces could be used for anything, and this is one of the economic merits of Adobe architecture of Najd of Saudi Arabia. Durability. Mud as a material has been used for so many centuries, and we see mud skyscrapers in Shibam in South Yemen that has been in existence for more than 6 or 7 or even 8 centuries. So it's a strong material when it is well used and well treated and well mixed, and it could last for a long time, also as long as you maintain it, because this is a material that requires regular maintenance, especially if you are in desert and have heavy rains that occasionally comes on, from time to time. Thermal values, both in the urban scale as well as the architectural scale. The urban compactness of Adobe settlements, the streets are shaded, are cool. The same are for outdoor, and it's a very pleasant, it's very human environment and atmosphere. And this urban compactness less was exposed to solar heat and rays and more air movements, both in the architectural scale and the urban scale because of the narrow and the different directions of the alleys and streets, and also in the architectural scale because of the courtyard. So there are two patterns of air movements and aerodynamics in Adobe settlement of Najd. And when the winds passes, when the settlement urban form is integrated with the farms, this even provide more coolness and more freshness to the outdoor air. And the courtyard has thermal and ventilation values. It keeps the buildings, the spaces behind the courtyards warm at night when the temperature outside is very cold, and it keeps them warm during the day, or cool during the day when the temperature outside is warm. So this courtyard, in addition to its social values, it enhances thermal and ventilation values of the architecture or the buildings of the settlement. And the vents that we see toward the top of the buildings are for ventilation only. They don't have any impact on the thermal performance of the building. And of course, most of the Adobe buildings feature thick walls, and this also has some thermal advantages by being an insulating layer or barrier. So my last word is that traditional architecture has a lot to offer for a more sustainable built environment, either in Najd or in Turkey or Sub-Sahara or anywhere in the world. Thank you very much. And I welcome any question or comments.
Yes, thank you very much, Professor Hisham Mortada, for this very interesting presentation. Now we have a few minutes for questions. You can ask via chat or directly from the Zoom display. Or do we have any questions from the YouTube channel? Maybe while we are waiting for other questions, there is from YouTube, there is no question.
Oh, sorry.
There is a question via phone call, I see.
Oh, sorry.
Professor Hisham Mortada, I personally have a question.
I have one question.
We have a question from Mohammed Al-Rafai.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Hisham. It was a really interesting presentation. I just would like to ask you about the material for plastering. You mentioned that it is made of gypsum. Is it gypsum or lime?
Gypsum, sometimes, it's called Noura in the local language.
Yeah, I know Noura.
So it's a mixture of, it's a lime mostly,
Yeah,
and it's
lime. So it is hydroxide calcium, not calcium sulfide.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's lime. And it's only limited to certain spaces. Yes. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you for the question.
Sure.
Professor Hisham Mortada, I would like to know if there are also modern or contemporary projects with Adobe in this region, or do we just have these traditional housing area or houses, or are there also new attempts to revitalize this tradition of Adobe architecture?
Yes, good question. There is a strong move nowadays to use Adobe in construction, either for private buildings or public buildings. And it's led by different agencies who believe on sustainability and humanizing built environment. But still, the way is so long in order to convince the local public about using Adobe or mud instead of concrete, which is available everywhere and probably cheaper.
Oh,
could I add something, Professor Hisham? I would like to help because I worked in Saudi Arabia since long time, and we have already constructed one of the buildings in El Grina.
Yeah.
It's built by the use of compressed earth block. And also I would like to mention the mosque called El Mada. It is in the middle of Riyadh. Of course, you know it.
Yes.
It's also constructed by the use of compressed earth block. And there is another mosque, I think, the son of King Salman. It is Prince Ahmed, I think, bin Salman Mosque. It is also constructed by the use of compressed earth block.
Yes, yes. And there is a project called Al-Uzaybat that was built by Abdul Wahid Al-Wakil. He's just one of the students who work for Hassan Fathi.
Yeah.
It's in Riyadh, and it's considered a masterpiece. And there is a book on that building or complex. It's called Back to Earth.
Back to Earth, yeah.
Yes.
Very interesting.
And during the last period of time, I've been working with Norman Foster, who has so many projects in this region. And Norman is very keen on using Adobe in the design and the buildings that he's designing in that region. Norman, designed the Masdar city in Dubai.
Masdar city, I know, yes, his project in Masdar.
And he's trying to do the same in Najd, but in a different way, So I think there is a good move, and presentations and conferences like this, will increase the public awareness about the importance of Adobe. Okay,
that's interesting. Norman Foster is involved in a project in Najd.
Yes, not only one, several projects.
Oh, that's interesting. Yes. Are there?
But I work with him because he doesn't know.
Of course.
Yes, so I work.
The tradition. Yes. Are there any other questions or comments to this interesting lecture? I think we had all questions. Thank you very, very much, Hisham Mortada.
Thank you.